So, what? Couple weeks-ish ago, I did a video talking about making man pages. And I think a good thing to go over is like the importance of man pages and manuals, kind of the obligatory RTFM that everyone should really take advantage of because of recent things going on, like trying to get things plants growing and whatnot, and working with that outside since we're getting into the warmer seasons. Sometimes you run into those neighbors that like don't read manuals for things and all, mostly like pesticides and whatnot. And this applies to software as well, because when you're looking at a safety sheet, a manual, or whatever for a particular pesticide, it gives you safety precautions, gives you proportions to mix with, and things like that. Much like a man page for a program like FCF will give you your arguments that you can use, the functions it has, a lot of times configuration fields you can use. Like, we can even go into something like RM, which can be very detrimental if you're not careful. And it will give you precautions on to save, like, preserving root and all that. And it's kind of the same deal when you're working with anything else, is if you take time to actually read the manual before you copy and paste that command, or before you put together an item or what all, then you will understand the safety precautions you need to take so that you can prevent damage, like deleting your root or possibly even shorting the board. So like another thing I've been doing is a lot of research on like good practice with like microcontrollers and like things like that, because I've been ordering parts for a custom keyboard. Another one I know, a very configurable one. And I've been looking at, okay, carefully like researching like how to put it together, like best practices for certain things, like the microcontrollers and how they work, kind of like trying to figure out like how do I need to flash the microcontroller, what's the process for doing that so that I do it right and don't mess it up, and understanding the results of it. And that's important because not only does it save you time and effort, but it can actually make the job go a lot smoother. So like, and the problem when you don't take that time to do that research is you can run into issues where, say, for example, if for certain perspectives, you can kill off your whole garden if you're not careful and don't carefully read the directions on how to like spray your weed spray if you're not. And you may have like overdrift and what all happen because you didn't spray properly, you didn't follow the directions, and you didn't look at the best practices for how to do it. And it's the same way with software, where if you don't understand the best practices for like scripting with certain programs and interacting things when you're shell scripting, then you can run into a lot of issues where like you end up creating a recursive loop that ends up killing your machine, or you create something that replicates itself on accident that ends up corrupting your whole hard drive or what all, or you end up wiping your whole root directory with just like stuff from dev random, and that can really kill your system. So, or at the least it can stall everything out, so it helps you preserve your root to not kill your system, but it can also prevent you, if we look at something like DD or disk destroy, which is also commonly used to copy over, to write to partitions, copy partitions, and write to disk and whatnot. It can prevent you from basically messing things up, and you can follow those best practices like using a certain write speed and things like that so that you don't kill your hardware as much, or you get the best write so that it will work. Even though a lot of times software like can somewhat figure that out automatically nowadays. Sometimes doing it manually will save that effort in case like your particular hardware doesn't have that same deal. Again, it's just like trying to keep your garden growing and you spray too much or you spray over too much and you just kill your neighbor's stuff too. So, or you kill your vegetable garden that you could have had and now it's dead. So, always remember to RTFM, read the manual, read the user directions, because otherwise you could kill something and that thing could be your like really expensive computer. Because if you spent like $2,000, $4,000 on your computer, the last thing you want to do is end up killing it. So if you thoroughly like research things and go through the right processes, you should be fine. But you got to be careful, and you got to make sure that if you're like farming it out to someone else, that they understand what's going on and actually the the things that are being used in it, and not just like, okay, here it is, you should be able to do whatever you need. It's like, okay, it's also why when you're submitting issues for certain things, they ask for specifics, like what kind of like libraries are using, what's this, that, and the other, to make sure their bases are covered. Because if you're using something slightly different from the normally expected stuff, then you can run into issues, and that's what can be a problem for them when they're trying to figure it out. So, and you can't always expect that, like, the software composition is going to be the exact same as yours and work the exact same way, because sometimes hardware, software, and things work together differently, and it's a whole mess. But yeah, if you found this helpful, if you're one of those people that has had trouble like reading manuals, I would highly recommend it. If you know someone that doesn't read manuals too well, you can beat them over the head with this too. So yeah, have a good one. Links and stuff are in the descriptions. Check it out, and I will see you guys later.